The ball hits your foot in the cramped concrete yard behind your grandmother's house in Rosario, and something in your chest goes quiet. Not silent, quiet. The way a room goes quiet when someone walks in who matters. You're 5 years old, and you already know something the other kids don't, that the ball is not an object. It's an extension of your nervous system, the one part of the world that has always made sense. You are small. You will always be small. The doctors will tell your father this like it's a diagnosis for a disease. Growth hormone deficiency, they'll call it. In a clinic with peeling paint and a receptionist who looks at your family with pity. Your legs won't grow the way other boys' legs grow. Every night, your mother will hold your ankle steady while your father presses a syringe into your thigh, and you will not cry. Because crying is for things you can't control, and this is just Tuesday. What you can control.
What you can control is what happens when the ball touches down. Everyone in your family works. Your father in a steel factory, his hands cracked and gray with metal dust. Your mother cleaning houses that aren't hers. Money is a word spoken carefully in your house, like it might break something if you say it too loud. The injections alone cost more than your father makes in a month. You hear them at night through the wall. Your parents, doing math that doesn't add up. And you understand, even at 8, even at 10, that your body is a debt collector nobody can pay. So when you play, you don't play like a boy having fun. You play like a boy proving he deserves to keep existing. Newell's Old Boys scouts you at 6. By 11, you've scored roughly a goal a game for 6 straight years. Number that will later be disputed, debated, mythologized. But you don't care about numbers. You care about the one moment, over and over, ball at your feet. The world slows, and for 3, 4, 5 seconds, you are not the smallest kid in the room. You are the only one who can see what's about to happen next. Argentina cannot pay for your treatment. Simple as that. A country that will one day paint murals of your face on every wall from Buenos Aires to Bariloche cannot, in 2000, find the will to pay for growth hormones for an 11-year-old from Rosario. Your father starts making calls. European clubs sniff around like wolves smelling a wounded animal. Talented, cheap, desperate. That's the smell of opportunity to a football club. Barcelona flies you in for a trial. You are 13. You step onto that grass at the Barca training ground, and something happens that will follow you your whole life. You go quiet again. That same quiet from the yard in Rosario, except now the walls of the room are made of scouts and coaches, and the weight of an entire footballing empire deciding in real time whether a boy who looks 10 years old is worth the risk. You destroy them, not loudly, not with tricks for the cameras. You destroy them the way water destroys stone, patiently, inevitably, until the sporting director, a man named Carlos Rexach, has nothing left to write a contract on and scrawls the terms on a paper napkin because he's terrified that if you leave the building before it's signed, someone else will take you. Your family uproots everything, Rosario to Barcelona, Spanish to Catalan. Everyone you know replaced with strangers who speak a different rhythm, eat at different hours. Look at you, a foreign kid with a hormone pump taped to your leg, like an experiment that hasn't proven itself yet.
La Masia isn't cruel like the criminal underworlds other men will one day live through. No gunmetal, no blood on concrete, but it breaks you down all the same, brick by brick, homesick night by homesick night. You cry yourself to sleep more times than you'll ever admit publicly. You call your mother in Rosario and can't speak. Just breathe into the phone until she says your name 3, 4 times. The boys around you become your unlikely brotherhood, though none of you know yet what you'll become. They're Cesc, sharp-tongued, always thinking 2 passes ahead, the kind of kid who sees the whole board when everyone else sees one square. There's PK, tall, loud, magnetic, the exact opposite of your quiet, and somehow your closest friend by the time you're 15. There's Xavi, already a watcher, a boy who talks about football like scripture, who takes one look at your first touch in training and tells the coaches, flatly,
don't sell him. Ever, whatever it costs. The training is brutal in its own way. Merciless repetition, tactical drilling until your legs give out.
Psychological pressure from coaches who tell prodigies daily that prodigies fail more often than they succeed. You watch boys older than you, more physically gifted than you, get cut and sent home in silence, their dreams folded into a suitcase. You understand, talent gets you the trial. Whatever's inside you when everything else fails, that's what keeps you here. Your debut for the first team comes at 16. You don't feel ready. You never feel ready. This becomes a pattern you'll repeat for 2 decades, standing in tunnels with your heart trying to escape your ribs, certain that this is the day they discover you're a fraud, a small, sick kid who got lucky with a napkin contract. Then the whistle blows, and the quiet comes back.
Goal after goal, season after season. The tactical creativity isn't gunpowder and silencers. It's a drop of the shoulder that leaves a grown man on his ass in front of 80,000 people. It's a first touch so soft, the ball seems to apologize for having any weight at all. It's 4 defenders converging on you in a phone booth of space, and you finding an exit none of them saw, because none of them were looking at the game the way you look at the game, like it's the only honest thing left in your life. By 22, you are the best player alive, and you know it the way you know your own pulse, quietly, without needing to announce it. But the costs are heavy, even in this life without bullets. Your body, still smaller than it should be, absorbs hit after hit from defenders who've decided the only way to stop you is to make you bleed. You play through torn muscles, through a pancreatitis diagnosis that nearly ends everything at 28, through a father under criminal investigation for tax fraud that drags your family's name through headlines in a language your grandmother back in Rosario doesn't fully understand, but reads anyway, crying at the kitchen table over articles calling her grandson a thief. Shabby becomes your compass on the pitch. The two of you speak in a shorthand no coach ever taught you, a silent geometry only you two can read. Andres Iniesta becomes something closer to a brother than a teammate, the two of you sharing a wordless understanding forged in 1,000 training sessions where talking was never necessary. But football's underworld has its own betrayals, quieter than knives but just as sharp. Boardrooms plot behind your back. Presidents use your name as a bargaining chip in political campaigns without asking you. Coaches who love you get fired by men who never once watched you cry alone in a locker room after a loss that felt like a death. You watch friends leave. Cesc to Arsenal, Piqué's career winding down, the dressing room slowly emptying of the boys who grew up beside you, replaced by new faces
Who call you the GOAT instead of your name, who look at you like a monument instead of a person. 2014, Brazil. A World Cup final you lose to Germany. Extra time. A goal that isn't yours to score, decided by an inch you didn't have. You stand on that podium, holding the Golden Ball trophy, best player of the tournament, and your face is a mask of something the cameras call devastation, but that you privately call proof. Proof that talent alone was never going to be enough. That somewhere in the machine of football, in the randomness of a ball bouncing 6 inches wrong, you are not actually in control, no matter how much the quiet in your chest has always told you otherwise. You go home and don't speak for days. Then, 2021. Barcelona. Your Barcelona. The club that took a sick, terrified 13-year-old and turned him into a legend, cannot afford to keep you. The club that saved your career now can't save itself. You stand at a podium, and for the first time since you were a boy crying into a telephone in La Masia,
You break completely, publicly, your voice cracking apart in front of the entire world. That's the betrayal that cuts deepest. Not a bullet in the back from an enemy, but abandonment by the one thing you trusted more than anything: football itself, or the business wearing its skin. Paris, a city that never quite becomes home, a jersey that never quite feels like yours. You are booed by fans who once idolized you from afar, blamed for failures that belong to systems bigger than one man, however great. For 2 years, you play like a ghost of the boy from the yard in Rosario, going through motions in a story that seems to be ending on someone else's terms. Then, Miami. Inter Miami. A club barely 2 years old. A stadium a fraction the size of the cathedrals you used to fill. Everyone calls it retirement in disguise. A retreat. The quiet part of the ending where legends go to fade. You have other plans. You step onto that field in pink and black, and the quiet comes back one more time. That same silence from the concrete yard, from La Masia, from Camp Nou under 100,000 voices. You score in your debut. Then again. 7 goals in your first 7 games. An entire league rearranging itself around a 40-year-old body that medicine once said would never even grow properly.
And in July 2026, at the World Cup on home soil in North America, 39 years old, playing what everyone, including you, knows is your final tournament, you walk onto the pitch one more time in the sky blue and white of Argentina. Your knees ache in ways they never used to. Your legs, once the site of nightly injections that no one but your parents ever saw, carry decades of scar tissue now instead of hormone deficiency. But when the ball touches down, none of that matters. The quiet arrives. The same quiet, exactly the same, like time folded back on itself. Somewhere in Rosario, there's still a concrete yard behind a house that isn't your grandmother's anymore. Somewhere in a drawer in your mother's house, there's a box of used syringes your father kept. He never told you why, and you never asked, because some things you understand without needing to speak them.
You are the greatest to ever play the game. Records will say so long after your name stops being a headline. But greatness, it turns out, was never really the thing you were chasing. You were chasing that quiet, that one small pocket of silence where a sick, small, terrified boy from a steelworker's house could stand and know just for a few seconds at a time that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The final whistle will come someday soon now. And when it does, you already know. The ball will stop, the crowd will roar, and for the first time in almost 40 years, the quiet inside you will have nowhere left to go.